The Galactic Assembly Hall was the largest room Ambassador Park had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top. Lights from 100 different worlds floated in the air like tiny stars. Delegates from across the galaxy sat in curved seats that wrapped around a central platform. Some had scales. Some had tentacles. Some looked like nothing Park had ever imagined in his worst nightmares. But Park was not afraid. He had served Earth for 20 years. He had faced angry politicians, hostile nations, and once, a very upset tiger at a zoo fundraiser. He could handle aliens. What worried him was his daughter. Hannah was 7 years old. She had bright eyes, messy hair that refused to stay in its ponytail, and absolutely no fear of anything. When Park's wife died 3 years ago, Hannah had become his shadow. Where he went, she went. And today, that meant the Galactic Assembly. She also refused to leave without Sergeant Pepper. Sergeant Pepper was a honey badger. He weighed about 12 pounds. He had silver-black fur, small ears, and eyes that always looked slightly angry. Park had rescued him from an illegal wildlife trader 5 years ago. The badger had bitten him twice during the rescue. Then he had climbed into Park's car and refused to leave. Now Sergeant Pepper sat in a small carrier, pressed against Hannah's chest. His nose twitched as he smelled the strange alien air. "Stay close to me," Park whispered to his daughter, "and keep Sergeant Pepper quiet." "He is quiet," Hannah whispered back. "He's just watching." Lieutenant Kim walked beside them. She was young, serious, and very good at her job. She had argued against bringing Hannah to the assembly. She had argued harder against bringing the honey badger. But Park was the ambassador, and he made the final choice. Now Kim kept her hand near her sidearm and her eyes on every alien that looked their way. The human delegation reached the central platform. Park stepped forward and bowed slightly to the assembled delegates. This was humanity's first major appearance before the full Galactic Assembly. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. They were still new to the galaxy, still learning the rules. "Honored delegates," Park began. "On behalf of Earth, I thank you for this opportunity to speak. We come in peace and friendship. We hope to learn from your great civilizations and share what we can offer in return." A sound like grinding metal interrupted him. It came from the section reserved for the Helix Dominion. The Helix were tall, very tall. Their leader, High Commander Voss, stood nearly 8 feet high. His skin was pale gray, almost white. He had 4 arms, each ending in long fingers with too many joints. His face was mostly flat, with small eyes that glowed faint blue. He was looking at Hannah, or more exactly, he was looking at the carrier in her arms. "What is that?" Voss asked. His voice was deep and cold. "What creature have you brought to these sacred chambers?" Park felt his stomach tighten. "This is my daughter, High Commander, and her companion." Companion. Voss made the word sound like a disease. "You bring animals to diplomatic functions? You keep beasts as... what? Friends?" Hannah stepped forward before Park could stop her. "This is Sergeant Pepper," she said. Her voice was small but clear. "He is my honey badger. He's my best friend." Silence fell over the assembly. Then laughter began. It started with the Helix delegation, but it spread. Aliens from dozens of worlds laughed at the small human girl and her tiny animal companion. Voss walked down from his section. His 4 arms folded across his chest as he approached the human delegation. He towered over Park. He towered over everyone. "Your species bonds with lesser creatures," Voss said. "We have studied your world. You keep dogs that follow you like slaves, cats that live in your homes, horses that carry your weight. And now this vermin." He pointed at Sergeant Pepper's carrier. You are so weak that you need animals to keep you company. This is why humanity will never be respected among the stars." Park's hands curled into fists. Beside him, Kim shifted her weight slightly, ready for trouble. "Our bond with animals is not weakness," Park said carefully. "It is partnership. These creatures have walked beside us for thousands of years. They have helped us hunt, protected our homes, and yes, given us friendship. This is not something to mock. Partnership?" Voss laughed again. "The Helix Dominion has conquered 17 star systems. We have crushed species far stronger than humanity. And we keep no pets. We have no need for the comfort of lesser beings. We are complete in ourselves." He leaned closer to Park. His breath smelled like burning metal. "Your attachment to these creatures proves what we suspected. Humanity is soft. Humanity is sentimental. And sentiment will be your extinction." Park did not back away. "Perhaps you should not judge what you do not understand." "I understand perfectly." Voss straightened to his full height. "The Helix Dominion has a saying, 'The strong stand alone. The weak seek comfort in others.'" He looked at Hannah with something like pity. "Even in their children." Hannah glared up at him. "Sergeant Pepper is not weak. He's brave. He's not afraid of anything." Voss smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Then perhaps one day we will test that claim." He turned and walked back to his delegation. Behind him, through the massive crystalline windows of the assembly hall, a shadow passed across the stars. Park looked up and felt his blood go cold. A Helix warship had entered orbit above the diplomatic station. It was enormous. Its hull was covered in weapons that looked like metal thorns. It blocked out the light from the nearest sun. "That is the Eternal Dominion," Voss called back over his shoulder. "My flagship. The most powerful warship in the known galaxy. It has destroyed worlds." He paused at the edge of his section. "Remember that, Ambassador, when you think about the value of your pets." Park put his hand on Hannah's shoulder. She was shaking slightly, but not with fear. With anger. "It is okay," he whispered to her. "We will be okay." But as he watched the massive warship drift across the stars, he was not sure he believed his own words. Lieutenant Kim stepped closer. "Sir, I think we should return to our quarters, now." Park nodded. "I think you are right." As they left the assembly hall, Sergeant Pepper pressed his nose against the mesh of his carrier. His small black eyes watched the alien delegates. He made a soft sound almost like a growl. Hannah held him tighter. "Do not worry," she whispered to her friend. "I will not let them hurt you." In the carrier, Sergeant Pepper's eyes never left the retreating form of High Commander Voss. The honey badger had survived snakes, lions, and human wildlife traders. He did not know what a helix was, but he knew a threat when he saw one. 3 days passed after the assembly. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of watching the Helix warship hang in the sky like a promise of death. Ambassador Park spent most of that time in meetings. He talked to Earth's government through secured channels. He talked to other alien delegations who seemed nervous about the Helix presence. He tried to find allies. He found only fear. The Helix Dominion had a reputation. They did not negotiate. They did not compromise. They took what they wanted, and they destroyed anything that stood in their way. On the morning of the 4th day, Voss sent his demands. Park read them in his office, while Lieutenant Kim stood guard at the door. His face grew pale as he scrolled through the message. "This cannot be real," he said quietly. "What does he want?" Kim asked. Park looked up at her. "Everything. He wants Earth to surrender our outer colonies. He wants our people to work in Helix mining operations as laborers. He wants us to pay tribute every year." He paused. "And he wants all companion animals on Earth to be destroyed." Kim stared at him. "Destroyed?" He wants us to kill our pets. He says it will be a sign of submission, a sign that we have given up our weakness. Park set down the message. He says we have 48 hours to agree, and if we refuse? Park looked out the window at the massive warship. Then the Eternal Dominion will begin destroying Earth's colonies one by one, starting with this station. Kim was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We need to contact Admiral Lee." Admiral Lee commanded Earth's defense fleet. She was stationed 3 days away at the nearest military base. Park had already sent her a message about the situation. Now he needed to send another. But when he tried to use the communication system, nothing happened. "The signal is blocked," Kim said, checking her own equipment. "The Helix are jamming all long-range communications. They are cutting us off." Park stood up. "They want us alone, helpless." A soft knock came at the door. Park opened it to find Hannah standing in the hallway. She held Sergeant Pepper's carrier against her chest like always. The honey badger inside was unusually quiet, his nose twitching constantly. "Daddy, what is happening?" Hannah asked. "The other children are saying we are going to die." Park knelt down and pulled his daughter close. "No one is going to die. I promise." But the alien said bad things about Sergeant Pepper. He said he would test us. Hannah's voice trembled. What did he mean? Park did not know how to answer. He looked at Kim, who shook her head slightly. There was no good answer. "Anna, I need you to stay in our quarters," Park said finally. "Keep Sergeant Pepper with you. Do not leave for any reason. Can you do that for me?" Hannah nodded seriously. "I can do that. Good girl." Park kissed her forehead. "I love you. I love you too, Daddy." After Hannah left, Park turned to Kim. "We need to find a way to contact Admiral Lee, and we need to start evacuating civilians. The evacuation shuttles are on Deck 12, Kim said. But if the Helix are jamming communications, they might also be blocking shuttle launches. Then we need to find another way." They worked for hours. Park talked to the station commander, a tired man named Director Cho, who had never expected his peaceful diplomatic station to become a war zone. Together, they organized the civilians into groups. They identified escape routes. They counted weapons and found very few. Earth had come to the stars hoping for peace. They had not prepared for this. As the hours ticked by, the Eternal Dominion grew closer. Its shadow covered more and more of the station. Its weapons began to glow with charged energy. "They are getting ready to fire," Director Cho said, watching the monitors. "If they hit us with that main cannon, this station will not survive. Then we need to give them what they want," said a voice from behind them. Park turned. A group of civilians had gathered in the control room doorway. Their faces were frightened. Some of them were crying. "Give them the colonies," one woman said. "Give them whatever they want. Just let us live." "They want us to kill our pets," Kim said coldly. "They want us to murder billions of animals on Earth. Dogs, cats, horses, everything. They are just animals." A man shouted, "Our lives are more important." Park stepped forward. "No. They are not just animals. They are family. My daughter's honey badger has been with her through the hardest times of her life. He has given her comfort when nothing else could. I will not kill him. I will not ask anyone else to kill their companions. Then you will kill us all instead." The argument might have continued, but a new sound interrupted them. A deep humming that vibrated through the station's walls. Everyone looked at the monitors. The Eternal Dominion was moving. Its massive bulk shifted in space, positioning itself directly above the station's main hub. Incoming message from High Commander Voss. The communication officer said. Park straightened his jacket. "Put it through." Voss's face appeared on the main screen. He was smiling. "Ambassador Park, I see you have received my terms. You have 36 hours remaining. I hope you are using that time wisely. Your terms are impossible, Park said. You are asking us to commit genocide against creatures that have done nothing to you. I am asking you to prove your strength, to show that you can cut away weakness. Voss leaned closer to the camera. But I sense you will not do this. You are too attached, too soft. We will fight you, Park said quietly. If you attack this station, we will fight. Voss laughed. With what? You have 3 security shuttles and a handful of guards. I have the most powerful warship in the galaxy. He spread his forearms wide. But please, Ambassador, fight. It will make your defeat more entertaining. The screen went dark. Director Cho looked at Park with despair in his eyes. What do we do now? Park did not answer immediately. He was looking at the monitor showing the station's internal cameras. On one screen, he could see his quarters. Hannah was sitting on her bed, holding Sergeant Pepper in her lap. She was talking to him, probably telling him not to be afraid. The honey badger sat perfectly still, his eyes fixed on the window. Even from the camera, Park could see the tension in the small animal's body. We do what humans have always done, Park said finally. We survive. We protect our families. And we never give up. Kim nodded. Then we better start planning. Outside, the Eternal Dominion waited. Its weapons glowed brighter with each passing hour. And somewhere in that massive warship, Commander Voss was already celebrating his victory. He had no idea what was coming. The explosion came at 3 in the morning station time. Park was sleeping in a chair in his office when the floor shook and threw him to the ground. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere. What happened? Park shouted into his communicator. Lieutenant Kim's voice came back tight with stress. Helix boarding parties. They breached Deck 7. They are not waiting for the deadline. Park's blood went cold. Deck 7 was only 2 levels below his quarters. 2 levels below Hannah. He ran. The corridors were chaos. Civilians screamed and pushed past each other. Station security guards rushed toward the breach, their weapons looking small and useless. The sound of alien gunfire echoed through the metal walls. Park reached his quarters and threw open the door. Hannah was already awake, standing in the middle of the room with Sergeant Pepper's carrier clutched to her chest. Her face was pale but calm. Daddy, I heard the noise, she said. Are the bad aliens here? Yes, sweetheart. We need to go. Now. Kim appeared at the door behind him. Sir, the main corridors are not safe. Helix soldiers are spreading through the station. We need to use the maintenance tunnels. Where do the tunnels lead? There's an emergency shuttle bay on Deck 4. If we can reach it before the Helix do, we might be able to escape. Park grabbed Hannah's hand. Stay close to me. Do not let go no matter what. What about Sergeant Pepper? He comes with us. Just keep him in the carrier. They moved into the maintenance tunnels. These were narrow passages that ran behind the main walls of the station. Workers used them to repair power lines and water pipes. They were dark, cramped, and smelled like old metal. Kim led the way with a small flashlight. Park followed, keeping Hannah between himself and the lieutenant. The sounds of fighting grew louder, then softer, as they moved through the maze of tunnels. How far to the shuttle bay? Park whispered. 2 more sections. Kim whispered back. We need to cross through a storage area. Then we will be there. They reached the storage area without trouble. It was a large room filled with containers and equipment. Kim checked around each corner before waving them forward. They were halfway across when the door exploded. 3 Helix soldiers burst through the wreckage. They were huge, covered in armor that looked like it was made of metal and bone fused together. Each soldier had 4 arms, and each arm held a weapon. Their eyes glowed blue in the darkness. Kim raised her sidearm and fired. The shot hit one soldier in the shoulder, but barely slowed him down. The helix armor was too strong. "Run!" Kim shouted. She kept firing, trying to give Park and Hana time to escape, but there was nowhere to run. More soldiers were entering from another door. They were surrounded. The lead soldier stepped forward. He was larger than the others, with gold markings on his armor that showed his rank. When he spoke, his voice was like rocks grinding together. "Ambassador Park, High Commander Voss wants you alive. You will come with us. And my daughter?" Park moved to stand in front of Hana. The soldier looked at Hana with cold blue eyes. "The child is not needed. Neither is the beast she carries. They are expendable. No." Park's voice was firm. "You will not touch her." The soldier made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You have no choice, human. You are weak. Your kind is weak. You hide behind animals because you cannot protect yourselves." He reached for Hana with one massive hand. What happened next happened very fast. Hana screamed and pulled away. In her fear, her grip on the carrier slipped. The latch that held the door closed popped open. And Sergeant Pepper, who had been waiting silently this whole time, saw his chance. The honey badger launched himself from the carrier like a small, furry missile. He hit the lead soldier directly in the face. The helix were a proud species. They had conquered worlds. They had killed millions. They did not know fear, but they had never met a honey badger. Sergeant Pepper's claws, which had evolved over millions of years to dig through hard African soil, and tear apart cobra dens, found the gaps in the soldier's helmet. His teeth, which could crack tortoise shells, bit into the soft flesh around the alien's eyes. The soldier screamed. It was not a battle cry. It was not a roar of anger. It was a scream of pure terror. The sound a creature makes when something small and furry is trying to eat its face. The soldier stumbled backward, all four arms flailing wildly. He crashed into one of his companions. His weapon fired randomly, sending bolts of energy into the ceiling, the walls, and the other soldier's leg. The third soldier tried to grab Sergeant Pepper. This was a mistake. Honey badgers have very loose skin. This adaptation had evolved to help them survive attacks from larger predators. When the soldier grabbed Sergeant Pepper's back, the honey badger simply twisted inside his own skin, turned completely around, and sank his teeth into the soldier's wrist. The soldier dropped his weapons. All of them. Kim did not waste the opportunity. Her sidearm barked 3 times. 2 soldiers fell, their wounds smoking. The third, the one Sergeant Pepper had first attacked, was still screaming and stumbling around blind. "Move, now!" Kim grabbed Park and pushed him toward the exit. The shuttle bay is just ahead. Park scooped up Hana and ran. Behind them, he could hear more helix soldiers entering the storage area. He could hear them shouting in their harsh language. And he could hear something else, more screaming. Sergeant Pepper was not following them. The honey badger had disappeared into the shadows of the storage room. And from those shadows came sounds of chaos, crashes, shouts, the high-pitched shriek of helix soldiers meeting an enemy they did not understand. "Sergeant Pepper," Hana cried. "We cannot leave him." "He is buying us time," Park said, his heart breaking at his daughter's tears. "He is protecting you." They reached the shuttle bay. It was empty except for one small emergency shuttle. Kim ran to the controls and began the launch sequence. "The helix jamming is interfering with navigation," she said. "I can get us off the station, but I do not know if we can reach safety. Just get us away from here," Park said. "We will figure out the rest later." As the shuttle's engines warmed up, Park looked back toward the storage area. He could still hear the fighting, still hear the screams. "He's just a small animal," Hana whispered through her tears. "How can he fight them?" Park held his daughter close. "Because he loves you, and love makes us stronger than we know." The shuttle lifted off just as more Helix soldiers burst into the bay. They fired at the departing ship, but Kim was a good pilot. She dodged between their shots and pushed the shuttle into open space. Behind them, the station was in chaos. Fires burned in several sections. The Helix boarding parties were everywhere. But in the darkness of the maintenance tunnels and storage rooms, something small and furry was fighting back. Something that did not know the meaning of surrender. Something that would never, ever give up. Sergeant Pepper did not think about war the way humans did. He did not understand strategy or tactics. He did not know anything about the Helix Dominion or their conquered worlds. He was a honey badger. His brain was simple and focused. But that simple brain understood one thing very clearly. Enemies were in his territory. Enemies had tried to hurt his family. And enemies had to be destroyed. After the fight in the storage room, Sergeant Pepper vanished into the ventilation system. The ducts were small, barely large enough for him to squeeze through. They smelled like metal and recycled air. They twisted and turned through the entire station like a maze. For a honey badger, it was perfect. Sergeant Pepper followed the sounds of fighting. His ears, designed to hear prey moving underground, picked up every footstep, every shouted command, every hum of alien equipment. He moved through the darkness with the patience of a predator who had hunted mambas in their dens. He found his first target in a corridor on deck 6. 3 Helix soldiers stood guard at a doorway. Behind them, Sergeant Pepper could hear human voices, crying, begging. The soldiers were keeping prisoners. Sergeant Pepper studied the situation. The soldiers were too far from the ventilation grate. He could not reach them from above. But he noticed something else. Their armor had gaps at the joints. Their legs were thin compared to their upper bodies. And they were looking the wrong way. He dropped from the vent and hit the ground, running. The first soldier did not even see him. One moment, he was standing guard. The next moment, something had torn through the back of his knee joint, and he was falling. Before he hit the ground, Sergeant Pepper had already moved to the second soldier. This one managed to turn around. He saw a small silver-black creature racing toward him. He raised his weapon. But honey badgers are fast. Very fast. Sergeant Pepper was already climbing up the soldier's leg before he could fire. The third soldier watched in horror as his companion spun in circles, trying to grab the small animal that was now climbing toward his helmet. He raised his own weapon, trying to get a clear shot. This was a mistake. Sergeant Pepper used the second soldier as a springboard and launched himself directly at the third soldier's face. When the fighting stopped, 3 Helix soldiers lay on the ground. They were not dead, but they would not be fighting again soon. Sergeant Pepper's claws had found every gap in their armor. His teeth had done the rest. The door behind them opened. A group of human civilians stared at the scene with wide eyes. What? What happened? A woman asked. Sergeant Pepper looked at her for a moment. Then he turned and disappeared back into the ventilation system. He had more work to do. Word began to spread through the station. The Helix soldiers who survived Sergeant Pepper's attacks told stories. They talked about a demon creature, a beast that appeared from shadows, a monster that could not be stopped. At first, the Helix commanders did not believe them. The reports made no sense. How could a small animal cause so much damage? Then the reports kept coming. On deck 5, Sergeant Pepper found a group of Helix soldiers trying to hack into the station's main computer. He dropped from the ceiling onto the lead technician. The other soldiers opened fire, but Sergeant Pepper moved too fast. In the chaos, their shots hit their own equipment. The computer terminal exploded. The hack failed. On deck 3, a Helix squad was setting up a communication relay to coordinate their forces. Sergeant Pepper chewed through the power cables. When a soldier tried to stop him, The honey badger climbed up the soldier's arm and bit his antenna array. The relay never worked. In the school module on Deck 2, 5 Helix soldiers had cornered a group of children. They were using the children as shields, waiting for human security to surrender. They did not expect an attack from above. Sergeant Pepper dropped through a ceiling panel onto the lead soldier's back. The children screamed. The soldiers panicked. In the confusion, station security burst through the door and rescued the children. By the time the fighting had gone on for 2 hours, Sergeant Pepper had personally attacked 11 Helix soldiers. He had destroyed 3 communication relays. He had disabled a power junction that shut down an entire section of Helix-controlled territory, and he was not tired. Honey badgers can fight for hours without rest. Their bodies produce special chemicals that keep them energized during combat. Sergeant Pepper had once fought off a pack of hyenas for an entire night. The Helix were just another challenge. In the station's emergency command center, Director Cho watched the security feeds with amazement. "Is that really the ambassador's daughter's pet?" he asked. Lieutenant Kim's voice crackled over the radio. She had landed the shuttle safely on the station's far side and was now coordinating with the remaining security forces. "That is Sergeant Pepper," she confirmed. "He is a honey badger. They are known on Earth for being extremely aggressive and absolutely fearless." "Fearless is an understatement," Director Cho said. He watched as Sergeant Pepper ambushed another patrol on Deck 4. "He is taking apart their entire operation. The chaos is giving us an advantage," Kim said. "Their forces are scattered. They keep sending squads to hunt the animal instead of focusing on securing the station. Can we use this?" Admiral Lee responded to our distress signal before the jamming started. "Her fleet should arrive within hours. If we can hold out until then we might actually survive this." On the Eternal Dominion, High Commander Voss was receiving increasingly disturbing reports. "A small creature is doing all of this," he demanded. "One animal?" His tactical officer shifted nervously. "The boarding parties have lost coordination, Commander. 11 soldiers are injured. 3 communication relays are destroyed. Our forces are..." "They are afraid." "Afraid? Of what?" "The soldiers call it a demon, Commander. They say it cannot be killed. They say it appears from nowhere and vanishes in the walls." Voss slammed his fist against his command chair. "It is an animal, a pet. Have our soldiers lost their minds?" "Commander, perhaps we should consider withdrawing the boarding parties and using the ship's weapons to..." "No." Voss's eyes glowed with anger. "I will not be defeated by a beast. Send more soldiers. Find this creature and kill it. I want its body brought to me as proof that Earth's companions are nothing but vermin." But in the corridors of the diplomatic station, Sergeant Pepper was already hunting again. He moved through the shadows like a ghost. His silver-black fur was stained with alien blood. His eyes burned with the simple, pure fury of a creature protecting its home. The Helix had conquered 17 star systems. They had destroyed countless enemies. They had never faced anything like this, because they had never faced a honey badger. And honey badgers do not understand defeat. Admiral Lee arrived with 3 destroyers just as the sun rose over the diplomatic station. Her ships were smaller than the Eternal Dominion, much smaller. But they were fast, well-armed, and crewed by people who were very, very angry. "This is Admiral Lee of the Earth Defense Fleet," she announced over all channels. "Helix forces, you have committed an act of war against a peaceful diplomatic station. You have threatened civilians. You have tried to harm our children. Withdraw now, or face the consequences." On the Eternal Dominion, Commander Voss laughed. 3 small ships? This is Earth's response? We will crush you and continue with our conquest. "You seem confident," Lee replied calmly. "Tell me, Commander, how is your boarding operation going?" Voss's smile faded. His tactical officer was showing him the latest reports. 23 soldiers injured. 5 communication relays destroyed. A power station sabotaged. And still no sign of the creature responsible. Your soldiers are losing to a 12-pound animal, Lee continued. Perhaps you should worry less about crushing us and more about surviving the next hour. On the station below, Lieutenant Kim had organized the remaining security forces into strike teams. With the Helix forces scattered and demoralized, the humans were taking back their homes section by section. Push them toward the airlocks, Kim ordered. Do not let them regroup. The Helix soldiers fought back, but their hearts were not in it. Every shadow might hide the demon creature. Every vent might bring death from above. They had come to conquer weak humans and their pathetic pets. Instead, they had found something they did not expect. Resistance. Ambassador Park watched the battle from the emergency command center. Beside him, Director Cho coordinated the defense. But Park's eyes kept drifting to one screen in particular. The screen showed a corridor on Deck 3. And in that corridor, walking calmly through the chaos of battle, was a 7-year-old girl. Hana. Park's heart stopped. What is she doing? She was supposed to stay on the shuttle. He ran. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. Through corridors filled with smoke and sparks. Past wounded soldiers and terrified civilians. He ran until he found his daughter. Hana was standing in the middle of a cleared section, surrounded by human security guards. In her arms, she held something small and furry. Sergeant Pepper. The honey badger was exhausted. His fur was matted with blood, most of it not his own. His eyes were half closed. But when he saw Park approaching, he made a small sound. Almost like a greeting. He found me, Hana said, tears streaming down her face. He came back to me, Daddy. He came back. Park fell to his knees and wrapped his arms around his daughter and her companion. You brave, stupid, wonderful creature, he whispered to Sergeant Pepper. You saved us all. On the Eternal Dominion, things were falling apart. Admiral Lee's ships are engaging our weapons platforms, the tactical officer reported. Our shields are holding, but we cannot fire on the station without lowering them. Then lower them, Voss shouted. Destroy the station. Destroy them all. Commander, our soldiers are still on board. If we fire, they have failed me. They deserve to die with the humans. The tactical officer hesitated. This was not the Helix way. They conquered. They crushed. But they did not sacrifice their own soldiers out of anger. Commander, I must advise against. Do it. That is an order. But before anyone could move, alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. The tactical displays flickered and went dark. Emergency lights flashed. What is happening? Voss demanded. Power failure in Section 7. Section 12. Engineering reports a coolant leak. The tactical officer's voice rose with panic. Commander, the reactor is destabilizing. How? We are not under attack from Lee's ships. Unknown, Commander. Something is in the ventilation system near the reactor. The sensors show a small life form, but that is impossible. Nothing could survive the radiation levels near. The ship shook violently. Explosions echoed through the hull. In the chaos. No one noticed a small silver-black shape slip out of a maintenance hatch and disappear into the escape pods. Commander, Voss stared at his dying ship with disbelief. The animal, he whispered. The animal did this? The Eternal Dominion did not explode. Its safety systems were too advanced for that. But it did lose power. It lost weapons. It lost engines. The most powerful warship in the galaxy drifted helplessly in space. Dark and silent. When Earth's security teams boarded the vessel, they found Commander Voss sitting in his command chair, staring at nothing. He did not resist when they arrested him. He did not speak. He simply sat there, his forearms hanging limp, his blue eyes empty. He had been defeated. Not by human weapons, not by human soldiers, but by a small, furry creature that refused to give up. 3 months later, the Treaty of Earth was signed in the same galactic assembly hall where Voss had mocked humanity's companions. Delegates from across the galaxy attended. Many of them had heard the story. Many of them had watched the security footage. Ambassador Park stood at the podium, Hana beside him. And on Hana's shoulder, wearing a tiny medal around his neck, sat Sergeant Pepper. "We do not keep pets because we are weak," Park said to the assembly. "We keep companions because we understand something the Helix never did. Strength is not about standing alone. Strength is about the bonds we form, the family we build, the friends who fight beside us." He looked at Sergeant Pepper, who was busily trying to chew on his medal. "Earth's animals have been with us for 10,000 years. They have hunted with us, guarded our homes, kept us company in our darkest hours. They are not our servants. They are our partners, our family." He turned to face the Helix delegation, now led by a nervous ambassador who kept glancing at the honey badger. "Mock us again. Threaten our companions again. And you will learn what the Helix learned. Humans do not keep pets. Humans keep family. And family protects its own." The assembly was silent. Then slowly applause began. It grew and grew until the hall echoed with the sound. Hana hugged Sergeant Pepper close. "You did good," she whispered. "You are the best honey badger in the whole galaxy." Sergeant Pepper yawned, showing his sharp teeth. Then he curled up on Hana's shoulder and fell asleep. He had earned his rest. He had fought a war and won. He had saved his family and crashed a warship. And tomorrow, he would probably bite a reporter who got too close, because that is what honey badgers do. The end.